Hey, what's up guys? In this video I'm going to be talking about something that holds a little bit of shame, and that is the idea that at one point I was homophobic. This was during my mid to late teens, maybe the first 1 or 2 years of my 20s, and a little bit of a backstory. I didn't learn the homophobia from my parents. I had really good parents. I guess I learned it from my environment outside of the home, and maybe I learned it from other kids whose parents were very much like that. So I think the reason for my homophobia, I think, stems from my fear of being gay. Because when I was 8, my first sexual experience was with another boy, and I had learned about the AIDS epidemic. I was wrapped up in the AIDS hysteria, and I had it in my head that if you had anything to do with a male and you're a male, you instantly had AIDS and you were going to die within 14 years. So I think the homophobia was based in this notion that it was based in fear. And yeah, I was terrified, and this was at the time in the 90s, late 90s, where it was like, who's gay, who's not? It's like, is Ricky Martin, I remember when that was a thing. The NSYNC, or all the Backstreet Boys, are they gay? There was this open kind of homophobia, and it's kind of reflected in Eminem's music, which I was very much influenced by. I remember hearing about Matthew Shepard, and this is a reflection on the hysteria of gay men in general. Basically, a kid was beaten and left to die on the side of a road, tied up to a fence, as far as I know. And basically gang beaten by 3 or 4 other guys, and he died later in hospital, like a week or 2 later, due to his injuries. Massive trauma. And one of the defenses was that the attackers were driven temporarily insane because Matthew Shepard was coming on to them, and that somehow justified a manslaughter thingamajig. Like it was just like, huh? Like, what? And that echoes a sentiment that gay men are somehow predatory, and that gay men want to basically fuck you and like stay away, like, I'm afraid, you know what I mean? Like, there's that, which I didn't quite get, because gay men are pretty much interested in other gay men, or bi men, I don't know, whatever. So that didn't really fly. I was homophobic because I was bullied in high school, and I was called the F word quite a few times. And when someone calls you something that you're not in that way, and you are bigoted towards that group, that just kind of strengthens your sentiment towards that. And then as I got older, I would still use the F word, but I had moved to the city, and there's a famous place on Davie Street where it's my first time being around gay people, right? Because I think like in rural areas, it's like everyone who's gay is not actually out, right? Back in the day, and maybe this even occurs now. When two gay guys, when a couple go, a same-sex couple, they go out, it's not their boyfriend. It's like, oh, it's his roommate, right? If someone's gay, it's like, oh, what's up with whoever? It's like, oh, he's single, right? There's like a slightly charming way that rural people, small towns, less progressive towns treat gay people. It's like, oh yeah, it's just his roommate. But I was, exploring Vancouver as a older boy, 16, 17, and I was like, oh, gay people. Like, I was kind of uncomfortable, but then I was like, I'm not getting assaulted. I'm not. It's just like, they're just like me, which just regular guys, but they have a different preference, which is fine, like whatever. And this was before 2005. This was right around 2005 when gay marriage became legal. And the argument for that, this is when it really changed for me. And it wasn't like an overnight thing, it was a gradual thing. And nowadays I feel like I'm, pretty not tolerant. I don't know the word, but nowadays I think everyone should just be who they are, and I can be around anyone with any preference, any sexuality, any gender, and I'm just like, we're all in this together. And there's no, like, zero uncomfortableness or bigotry towards any group. But yeah, I remember 2005, and I had heard, imagine your wife or husband, they get seriously hurt in a car accident or something, and you go to the hospital and you're just like, I need to see my significant other, I need to see my partner, and they're just like, who's this guy? It's like, no, family only. Like, who are you? You need the same protections. There's protections for legal marriage. And, in my lifetime, it has gone from, you couldn't be out. You could not be out. If you were out in the public eye, you were done. To it's being celebrated. And I think that's awesome, right? It's amazing. Like, we've come so far. We've got a lot more work to do. But, the Western world, first world countries, quote unquote, whatever that means, we're getting there, and it's a good thing. And I think, yeah, who's against families, right? I guess conservatives should be more open to same-sex couples and marriage, because more families equals a better economy, I guess. I don't know, I just made that up, who knows. But yeah, at some point, I'm not gonna say that I have gay friends, but I do. But I'm not gonna say that's like, oh, I have gay friends, therefore I'm not. I'm not going to hide that I had a very different point of view and that I was wrong at one point. I do feel shame because it is wrong. It's gross, and maybe in 10 years we'll look back and be like, oh man, how we treated or how we did whatever. Like, we'll look back and be like, what were we thinking? The same way as, like, I'm looking back to myself 12 years ago, 15 years ago. It's a thing. Anyway, I'm just looking at stuff. fun to look at stuff. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. Take care and have a good one.